Sometimes when we are separating out a string into the individual cells, we are only going to do it once. We don't need to do it over and over again. In that case, text to columns may work for you. Let's see how that works. We've highlighted all these cells here. We need to separate it out, model the first 3 digits, product the next 6, and anything else region. So I'm going to come over here and do data, data text, text to columns. We can separate it out by commas or tabs or things like that, or spaces. In this case, we're going to use a fixed width because it's always the first 3 characters. So I'll go next, and you can notice it's between the 7 and the 3, so I'm coming over here and clicking on it. Now sometimes you make a mistake, just double click and it'll go away. So we'll separate it there, but we also want to make a separation after 6 digits between the 8 and the 5. And I'll go next. Where do I want this? I'm going to put it up here in E4, and I'll say finish. Now it says there's already data there. Do you want to replace it? Okay. And now we've separated out the first 3 digits, the next 6, and anything else left over in the last column. I know my son, when he was working for a software company, sometimes he had that job as an intern to take data from one system, massage it, change it around, and put it out to another system. If it's just a one-time thing like that, he'd bring it in and often use Excel to do the manipulation and then put it into the new database system. Text to columns was a favorite. Let's go to the next one. Here we have data that was actually from one of my students that she had to analyze and work with, but you'll notice it's all just in one long string the way it was brought in. That's often the case. So let's highlight this and see how we can separate that out. We could put it all in separate columns based every time I see a space, but the problem is then we'd need to gather together the date, the time, and the AM, PM, and put it all back together and format it for an Excel date. So I'd rather just have Excel pull that out and put it in as a date. So what we could do in this case maybe is pull off these first couple of digits, then pull off the date time, and when we get to the other part, use just spaces. So that's what I'm going to do to get this data to separate it out so that now we can do our analysis, or billing as the case may be. So text to columns, and we're going to do a fixed width to begin with, and I'll put a arrow right here on the side of these and then pull this down, but when I get down to the bottom I can see, oh, well, that doesn't work because we go right through the number. So I'll double click on this, get rid of it, and then put another one just to the side of the number down here. Let's come back up, and oh good, it's in between the date time. So this will work. We'll just first pull off this one number. You'll notice there's extra spaces up above and down below before the date, but Excel will do a trim when we pull out the data. So I'll just say finish. You'll notice then we have all the numbers here and all the dates without any spaces in between. We're ready to pull out our next information. So I'm going to highlight the whole thing, text to columns once more, and again, let's try fixed width on this because we don't want to separate by the spaces. Maybe I could do an M or something like that, but I may run into trouble as well. So I'll try fixed width first. Come down here, go next, and if I were to put that on this side of the PM, let's pull that down. We're cutting right through it again, so get rid of that and put it here, and come back up. And sure enough, that works. We can separate out the date and time, and so I'll just click on finish. Now we'll need to open this column up a bit to show all of this, but Excel has put that into a date and time format and also formatted the cells. You notice it's formatted in the 24-hour clock or military time instead of the AM/PM, but that's okay. We can reformat it any way we want. We know it's an underlying Excel date and time. Okay, let's finish up the rest of these. So we highlight all the rest and text to columns. And this time we're going to separate it out by spaces. So delimited. Next, we can do it more than just one thing. We don't have any tabs there, but I'll put that. Notice we could put other characters as well. Here's what it's going to look like if we separate by spaces. And I think that's going to be pretty good. We can work with this. So I'll say finish. Okay, it's looking pretty good here. We do have a couple of problems, and one is that these should be over 1, 2 columns. Included should be included all the way down, whether it's included or not. Well, I could copy these or cut them and then paste them in G5, but then I would need to do it here and down here. When you have something like this, often the easiest way to do this would be maybe to highlight what you want to sort. And let's just sort it by, say column D. Looks like a good one. It'll allow us to do that. Now we've got all the telephone numbers in there and all the incoming together. So these are the outgoing calls, and then we have the incoming calls down below. With the incoming calls, I can just highlight all these in one time. You could do a Control X cut and come over to G22 and do a Control V paste and moved them all over. So now they're all in the right columns, except we may also want to then resort this in the order it was originally. So I'll come back up here and let's sort by column B this time. And now we have all the data separated out into its own cell and in the order that it came in. Again, if I'm doing it just once, I'll often try to use text to columns if I can. However, if this information is coming in on a weekly or monthly basis, I probably just want to take the time to write out the formula, and then I can use it without having to go through all these steps each time.